everyone, I'm Nina Zeta with Sidewalker Daily, and in this video, you're going to talk about Instagram sponsorships for smaller accounts. Now, I know how exciting it is to work with brands and how so many of the influencers and content creators that we work with have the goal to work with brands. So I totally get it. And I figured, you know what, let's make a video that discusses different ways that if you're a smaller influencer, that you can get through the door and start working with the brands that you want. Now, I do want to say before anything that working with brands is just a small piece of the big influencer puzzle. I think a lot of misconceptions go into it. So I want you guys to know, if you're watching this and you're frustrated because you're a smaller account and you're like, I want to work with brands, that's just like one small way that influencers make money. There are tons of different ways to make money as an influencer, and working with brands is just one of them. So let's jump into some of the tips that I have for you guys on how to get Instagram sponsorships if you are a smaller account. So my first recommendation would be is to pick an account or a brand that you want to work with and then create an awesome campaign around this account. Now, you may be thinking, what are you talking about, Nina? Well, let me explain. I work with brands on their influencer marketing campaigns, and I'll tell you something, and it's so important that you understand. Brands may say they don't have budget for influence, but they 9 times out of 10 have budget for production, okay? So what that means is they may not have budgets to pay you a sponsored post just for you to post and get likes, but they may have a budget for you to create really cool content for them because they need to get that content themselves, whether they need it for their Instagram page or their website. Brands need content. So if you can create a really cool campaign and, just take a few brands that you want to work with, and get creative, shoot your own photo shoots, be your own creative director. And when you create this content, you can use it in your portfolio, but it's also to post, on your Instagram and tag these brands, or you can, send it to them, share on stories. I've heard of so many cases where people will do something really creative and with a brand that they want, and they'll do something a little bit out of the edge or out of different, and then they'll put it on stories, and the brand, someone on the brand side will comment being like, cool shoot that you did. And this is where you can take that conversation to the next level by getting their attention, by tagging them, by getting them to comment or see what you've done. Now you can ask, oh, I'm so happy that you liked it. I'd love to email you some of the shots from the photo shoot. Now you're creating a one-on-one conversation. Now you're getting an email. Now you're positioning yourself in a way to work with a brand that may have never paid attention to you. And why? Because you're adding value. You're giving them what they want, which is content. So producing content in a really interesting, fun, creative way to get the brand's attention is a great starter tip. As I mentioned before, I work with lots of brands on their influencer marketing campaigns and on their social media strategy. So when we're figuring out Instagram sponsorships and who we want to work with and who we want to sponsor, it really comes down to your audience. And do you have a real audience? Now, this takes me back to the theory of 1,000 fans. And if you've worked with me on one-on-one coachings, you'll hear me say it time and time again, how important it is to forget the big vanity metrics, the big number of followers, because if those followers don't do what you ask them to do, they're worthless anyways. You can have 100 million, 1,000 followers, and if they don't click on a promo or swipe up or engage with you, or whatever it is that the call to action is, then they're not worth anything. Wouldn't you rather have just 1,000 dedicated followers or people that are going to, show up for you? That is just so much more important. I've worked on campaigns before where we've had influencers with 300,000 followers, and the brand was disappointed because what it really comes down to is engagements, impressions, reach. That is so much more important than having this huge follower count. So again, if you are working towards wanting to work with brands, if you can show that your audience is super loyal and ride or die and going to be there for you, then this is super valuable to brands. Now you're probably thinking, okay, Nina, well, how do I show this information? This is where we always like to talk about testing your influence and then converting that test, so to speak, into a case study. So I'm going to share with you guys my screen right here. You're going to see, if you join the link below, you're going to have access to all our free resources, and one of them is the Test Your Influence resource. And it goes way more into it, but really what I want to get you guys to think, and like the mindset, is test your influence. You know, do your own giveaways, see what those results are, you know, post questions, do a blog post, put a bit.ly in your bio, see how many people click on that link. You know, whatever it is that you need to do to get the data to show the brands that you actually have influence, that is golden. And then taking this information and putting it into a case study, not a media kit, but a case study, which is a one-pager, you know, it could be 1 to 2 pages of a certain campaign that you did or certain tests, and it explains it. It explains the objective, it explains what happened, the results, and I promise you, if you show up to a brand in a pitch in person, or however you end up talking to this person on the other side, and you show them, hey, look at my audience, look how targeted they are, look how they, you know, they've clicked, whatever the call to action was, you know, maybe that's how you get in with the brands, by showing them that you have an audience that's super motivated and super engaged. And while we're on the topic of audience, it's also really important to get to know your audience. If you want to get sponsored on Instagram, you need to know who your people are. And you can do this by, you know, just again, finding out who they are, not just through the insights and going on the back end and looking, but asking them, you know, where are you guys from? Having open-ended questions in your captions, engaging with them on stories. The more audience that you can find out, the more information on your audience, the better you can perfect that pitch when you're trying to get sponsored. So if you go to a brand that has exactly your audience, that is going to be a huge win for you. Now, another big tip when it comes to trying to get sponsored on Instagram, if you're a smaller account, is be specific in your ask. I get tons of emails from my brand clients on smaller influencers that want to collab. They want to collaborate, but they don't tell me what they want. So you're basically pitching to me and then asking me to come up with the idea of how to work together. That doesn't make sense, right? If you're super specific, if you have a very, you know, an idea in mind, or something that you're coming to them almost like to pitch something really exciting. So for example, you don't want to use vague terms and being way too broad, because if you're reaching out to a brand, then, you know, you should come prepared and have like some sort of killer idea in mind that sparks their interest. Now for my next tip, I'm going to talk about niching down and why this is super important when it comes to wanting to get sponsored on Instagram, especially if you're a small account. So let me explain to you guys, let me give it to you in an example. Let's just say you have 2 travel bloggers, okay? One of them talks about lifestyle, food, where to go, itineraries like all over the world, what, you know, very, very big in their scope of what they talk about. Then you have travel blogger number 2, who only talks about national parks. That's it. The best national parks in the country. What to pack when you're going on a national park. Snacks to bring on national park adventures. Road trips to national, well, you get the drift, right? So like everything national park. Now both brands are going to a backpack company trying to pitch a sponsorship. If I was the person on the backpacker company and I'm trying to target an adventure traveler, let's just say that's like my market, we're really trying to push to adventure travelers because that's like a big, you know, good niche to focus on, I would go with the person that talks about national parks, because I know that their audience is really specific and only going to them for that type of information, and my product makes sense in that conversation. If I was a brand and I went to the other influencer, I'm taking a risk because I don't really know who that person's audience is. Are they there for the food posts? Are they there for the shopping? Are they there for the itineraries? Whereas when we know that the national park traveler is there for adventure travel. You guys see what I'm getting at? So if you're definitely, you know, if you're a smaller account and you're just starting out, if you can be like the one person that talks about, you know, the expert on a specific topic, or maybe it's a specific geography, or, you know, just being super niche in your scope, that is definitely going to get brands way more interested and able to work with you because they know that their audience that your audience matches their audience. If you're a smaller account, if you have a smaller account on Instagram, this is an opportunity too for you, if you want to pitch to brands and try to get sponsored on Instagram, is to leverage your following on other platforms. Like, let's just say you have a killer email list that's super engaged, or you have a Facebook community where you guys all talk about, XYZ, whatever topic it is. These are still metrics and numbers that you can pull into. So just because your Instagram following isn't where you want it to be per se, it doesn't necessarily mean you can't leverage the audiences that you've built on other platforms. So when you're looking to work, especially, as a smaller account, make sure that you're not just investing in one platform, right? I always say this on my private coaching calls. And if, you're looking to work with me one-on-one, I'll leave a link below so we can do that and I can help you figure that out. But I always say that, don't just pick one platform. It's just too risky, especially Instagram with the algorithm and all that mess. So yeah, definitely take that into consideration about using other numbers and other platforms to help boost you. Now, another tip I love giving to smaller influencers and smaller accounts is the importance of treating yourself like a brand. Well, who cares what your numbers are? Are you a sloppy influencer? And when I say sloppy, that's like your brand aesthetic. Is your bio all over the place? Are you still using a Gmail? Brands want to work with serious people. We want to feel safe in who we sponsor and who we are giving our dollars to or trade or whatever. We don't want to just work with any Joe Schmo. So if you're able to position yourself as a professional in this space, whether it's through your feed or your aesthetic, even your tone, how you talk, how you communicate with brands. I've seen a lot of success actually with some of my corporate people that have become travel influencers or bloggers, because they have this corporate understanding of what works well in the workplace. They bring that energy to their startup in the influencer space and they tend to kill it. I'll give you an example. I went on a press trip once, and this is very travel specific, but we went on a press trip. And I had an influencer there who quit her 9-to-5 and is now was starting a video production company. And at the end of the trip, she sent me an Excel spreadsheet with all her posts that she did and all the numbers. I was blown away. Now I have a corporate, background. I'm an MBA. I've gone, I've worked with big brands and companies. So I love that, obviously. I'm on the brand side too. So to me, she stood out. I was like, whoa, this is great. So if you're a smaller account, but you have a strong corporate background, use that professional energy in everything that you do, what you've learned in your workplace to stand out, because creatives, unfortunately, have a very bad rap in our industry to just kind of be not serious. And if you're looking to work with brands in your smaller account, being super professional, even if you just are have that energy, is going to take you a long way. Another way, if you're a smaller account, that you can work with brands is just by engaging with them. Now, I don't think we need to start with the biggest brand in the block, We can start small. You need to start building up. I always say your local influence. And I don't care if your town has 3,000 people, there's always a shop or a town center or something to do. There's always entrepreneurship. There's always people that have their own businesses, and you can work for them and help build them up, either through content creation or just doing takeovers or whatever it is. But when it comes to engaging with brands, start local and engage deeply, not just, oh yeah, love it, super cute. Have a smart comment, have a smart question. Questions are great because you get them to respond to you. If you're able to engage deeply with brands around you, then you're able to hopefully get in the door and start those conversations on ways that you can work together. I've seen this happen a lot. If you're just engaging with accounts that are, smaller brands that are more in your scope, in your space, I think it's a great way for you to stand out. And know that the person behind, if it's a smaller company, it's probably not that many people working there. You have chances that the owner is looking at her DMs. It's not always these big brands that have social media teams that are running their social. That's why I say if you're a smaller account, it's really good to just get that experience with the smaller brands and the hometown brands and taking a local approach. Who's in your neighborhood? Who can you support? Then you can start to collect those testimonials. You can start to collect those references. People that starts local tend to build their credibility in their hometown, then they're able to transfer that, you know, when they're trying to grow their influence. And like I said, I'm going to leave a link again below to our free resource library where we have tons of different resources for you guys about testing your influence and all that good stuff. I work with influencers and content creators just like you one-on-one all the time, and I've left a link below. So if you're looking to work with us, and we also do group settings, which are super cool and fun because it's like 10 to 15 people just like you, and you guys are like all helping each other, and we have WhatsApp groups, and we have a blast. So I would absolutely recommend a group coaching if you're comfortable and you want to work with other creators too and network. I will leave a link to that too. So would love some feedback. Let me know what you guys think on the comments below. Make sure to subscribe to our channel, and I will see you in the next video.